3, 2, okay, you're ready.
All right. Good evening, everybody. We are so happy to present to you all our Eagles parent panel this evening. We had our panel yesterday, and we had a great conversation with some folks. So we're looking forward to doing the same tonight.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
We have. Hold on one
so
second. I apologize.
You all our Eagles parent panel.
Technical difficulties. Sorry about that. I have my my volume on the YouTube. Anyway, all right. So we have a wonderful panel planned for you all. We're going to have our YouTube chat on. So if for those of you that want to participate in the chat, you'll have the ability to ask a question or comment, and we'll make sure to get those addressed as we have our time together. So without further ado, my name is Maya Cardenas. I'm our Associate Dean of Student Services, which includes student life, outreach, and judicial affairs, and some components of Title IX as well. And so tonight is our parent panel. We have some wonderful guests. I'm going to hand it off to our moderator. We're really blessed to have now published author, faculty member, Amber Lepin. And so Amber, if you want to take it away.
Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here. One of my most favorite thing in the whole wide world is to support people who care for children. I'm part of the TEDS department at MSJC, and we have a great panel here. I'm excited to hear what they have to say. In fact, I don't even want to waste any more time. I'd love for each of our panelists to just take a moment and let us know who you are and what your role is on campus. Are you a student or a staff member? Carla, why don't we start with you?
Hello, everyone. I work at MSJC as one of the professional development coordinators. And I come with 2 children. So I have a 2-year-old and just turned 5-year-old. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Great. Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad to hear. And 2 and 5-year-olds, you have yourself a busy house. That's exciting. I love 2s and 5s. To visit them very much. They're very fun. Christina, how about let's hear from you, please.
Hello, I'm Christina Acevedo. I teach English at MSJC, and I have a 3-year-old son.
Awesome. I was a 3-year-old teacher for many, many years. I think 3s are so exciting and also exhausting. So I'm glad you're here. Deja, let's hear from you, please.
Hello, my name is Deja. I'm a student and a full-time employee of MSJC. I have 1 child, I have a son, and he will be 12 next month.
Oh, 12.
He's a big boy.
12. What a fun and challenging age for everybody. So glad that you're here and you can share that perspective. Marlissa, can we hear from you, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Marlissa Thomas, and I'm a student at MSJC, and I am a student worker in student services, specifically in financial aid. And I have a 5-year-old daughter named Adrian, and she's the love of my life. She drives me crazy, but she's the love of my life.
5, yes.
Fun times.
Busy age. They're learning so quickly.
Yes.
I'm glad you're here. I hopefully didn't. Victoria, could you tell us about yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, my name is Victoria Caballero. I'm a full-time student on campus and a part-time student mentor through Outreach. There's 8 people in my house, but I'm responsible primarily for my 16-year-old brother and my 13-year-old sister.
Wow, that's a big, busy house.
Yeah, it really is.
A lot on your plate as well. I think that's one of the things that ties most people on the campus and virtual campus of MSJC is that we're all trying to do more than one thing at a time. And especially right now, we are all trying desperately to figure out what balance looks like as we try to care for the people that are around us and also care for ourselves and tend to the jobs and the responsibilities and finish this school semester really quickly and easily. So I'd love to, I know that you guys already told me what your role is and what the ages of the kids that you're responsible for caring for, but could you also just for you, those of you who are students, and we can maybe even start with Marlissa. Could you let us know, like, what are you hoping to do with your school?
Well, for me, my major is liberal arts and social behavior. I want to take my associate's degree and go to, excuse me, San Bernardino, San Bernardino College. Um, I want to be like some sort of like mentor for young ladies. I know that communication is key, so right now I'm learning to gain like more communication skills and learn how to, cope with my own emotions so I can help someone else deal with theirs. So um, that's what I want to do right now. Um, I'm still up in the air exactly like what I want to do, but I do know I want to be someone's like go-to. So I'm not sure what setting I want to be in, if it's like educational or like nonprofit, but I just know I want to use what God has given me, and that's listening and just being there for people. So
Fantastic. I think I'll check in on goals throughout as we go along, especially if we get to a place where we're like, hey, we're ready for some more a lighter topic, and we can hear some more about goals. But how many of you are currently taking classes? So, Marlisa, are you taking classes? Marlisa, are you taking classes right now?
yes,
And
psychology and body conditioning. That's like a PE class, 1 credit. And what other class am I taking? Psychology and come on, I can't even think right now.
that's okay. Sometimes I might have to have trouble telling you which ones I'm teaching, and I'm not even teaching that many. I understand.
And statistics.
That might be why. That might be why you forgot it for a little minute, because
I
that's
know. I'm trying to forget
hard
it.
work. It is a good class, and you'll use the stuff, but man, oh man, it takes a lot of brain power. So
It
that's
does.
Victoria, are you taking classes as well?
Yeah, I got a full load. So I'm taking chemistry 101. I'm taking Spanish 101. What? See, I feel you, Melissa. I feel you.
Thank you. This is real.
I'm taking an honors psychology of gender, and I'm also taking guitar 1.
Yikes. That's a lot of things, and you're using a lot of parts of your brain. Good for you. Good for you. And you have teenagers in your house.
It's a mess, but it's a fun mess on
Yeah.
occasion.
Now, I'm so sorry. I know that Carla and Christina are teaching. Deja, are you a student as well?
Yes, I'm a student as well.
So what classes are you taking?
I'm taking English, history, and sociology right now.
So you guys none of you are taking the easy way out of this. That is impressive. Well, thank you guys so much for being here, our instructors and our students as well. So let's kind of talk about the transition of going from traditional to online. Carla, could you share a little bit about how you're doing with the transition as a mom and trying to work, and then maybe a little bit about how your students are doing as well?
Yes, but I am actually a coordinator at MSJC. I am not a faculty member.
Oh,
I'm
I was
a professional
thinking that you
development
said you
coordinator.
were faculty. I'm sorry. I should have
That's okay. That's okay. I still am teaching. I'm just teaching our staff members, right? So definitely I am used to training and leading lots of hands-on in face-to-face trainings, and I'm truly in the midst right now of understanding what it's like to move to an online format of training that is hands-on, that is interactive, and it's a challenge. I would say it's a challenge for me and a learning curve. But you know what? I'm all down for the learning curve because I'm here home in a safe environment today where I need to be in the world that we're in. And so just managing that piece of I get to be at home, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm not out there in a space that I could feel maybe wasn't safe. And so I would say that would be my biggest, I'm thankful for that. But it is a challenge, right? It's a challenge to leave your house that you would used to leave your house every day to go to work and support your community outside. And now I'm supporting it inside through a computer. I mean, I'm making lots of connections via online, right? But it's just not the same.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christina, how are you doing with your transition from onto online, more living in a virtual world more than in the three-dimensional world?
It has been challenging. And it's not that I didn't know how to teach online, but it's just making sure, I don't know, I internalize everything that my students are feeling. So when they feel frustrated and overwhelmed, like I take that, like I just want to solve it for them and I want to be there for them. So that, like watching, I've seen some students break down through Zoom, and I just want to wipe away their tears and tell them it's going to be okay, and try to make this as a smooth transition as possible. And I've just been trying to be there for them. If I have to do extra Zoom time to teach them how to do Zoom, that has been challenging. Like I'm usually like, it's that button right here, it's blue, like just doing everything I can to help them. And it's challenging on my end because I have to still, it seems like my class time has it's longer now because there's so much more extra time you have to do and dedicate to online, and on top of all my responsibilities as a faculty member behind the scenes outside the classroom. So it's been a little overwhelming on my end also.
I think it's good for people to hear that who are students, because I think that it might be tempting to think, oh, I don't want to bother my professor with the fact that I'm struggling. I know that they're busy. I don't want to bother them. But I think that every single faculty member that I've talked to has a heart for our students, and we are hurting for them, and we are sad for them that the semester isn't going the way that they wanted it to or expected it to. And that, you know, we know, all of us understand that our students are going through a lot. And so being able to hear them say like, hey, you are feeling for them and you're happy to take that extra time for them, I think is good for people to hear, because I think most of the faculty, if not all of us, feel that same way. We're happy to do it. And yeah, we have a lot going on, so it might take a minute, but
I just want to add one thing. I know this is not conventional, but one of the things I'm doing to end the semester, and a lot of my students are really enjoying it, and I only took students that wanted to volunteer this, is I'm sending them out postcards. I found these awesome like teacher postcards, and each one of them gets a little short personal note. And I just felt like still making that connection with my students was really important. But again, these were only students that volunteered that were wanting to do that. And it's really surprising. Some students have never received a postcard before. So that's really fun. That was really fun to introduce them to postcards.
I have found that, you know, we're kind of forced to think back, like, okay, what do we do? What are the other ways that we can reach out and we can connect? I think it's also a surprise for a lot of people who thought maybe being an online student maybe was the easy way out or a short way to do it. And I have had people, I completed my bachelor's degree online, and somebody were like, oh, I prefer to go to real college because, you know, it's harder. And I'm like, well, it is just a different kind of hard. Being online all the time can be also just as exhausting, just as rigorous, and your education can be just as quality, but trying to do it in the middle of a pandemic means that we have to be just a little bit easier on each other. Absolutely. So let me ask you guys, Victoria, how are you doing with the transition from being in person to online?
Honestly, I'm struggling as a student. This is my second year at MSJC, so I have only taken face-to-face classes, and originally I was gonna have online classes or hybrid classes this semester, and I was like, no, I don't really focus that well in doing that. And then all of this happened, and now out of my 4 classes, one of them has just completely transitioned to online. We only met as soon as we came back from spring break and everything. We only met that once, and then that was it. Now everything's kind of on my own. In my other class, I can't even have my camera on or, you know, like speak unless I have a question. In my psych class, though, it's the best because that's where I get to actually socialize with people. And in my guitar class, it's so sad. That used to be my favorite class, to just go onto campus and enjoy with my other classmates. And now it's just a one-on-one like Zoom call with that professor and just answering little questions here and there. It's really not the same. And it takes a lot out emotionally.
Yeah, and I think that it's good that we acknowledge that for everybody too. It's not your imagination if you're feeling a little bit of sadness or melancholy or disappointment that this is, if I wanted online classes, I would have signed up for online classes.
Exactly.
I understand that. And all of those emotions are valid and it's okay to feel that way. And just know that your instructors are working so that we can do better with that too. Some of us, a lot of us are really trying to find what's the best way to deliver a class. And as a campus, our entire leadership is working so hard to try to get us all up to speed and on the same page so we can offer the same quality education to you, no matter, how this all plays out. So just know that we're working on it and it's not your imagination. It is hard. And don't be afraid to speak up when, there's something that you need to say. That's okay. I'm going to want to hear more about that, but I also want to make sure that as I talk about managing my time and responsibilities, which is my next question, that I'm managing the time that we have here together. So Deja, I'd love to start with you. How are you managing your time and responsibility here while you're at home?
I have to set little, in my phone, I have, you can put as many alarms as you want, but I like to name some of the alarms.
Yeah.
Like if I'm busy with work, my son knows, like if I'm busy in between, I can answer his little questions or do the little things that he wants to do. But when I'm working, he knows that I'm working. But between school and being at home and studying and him being here 24/7, also, he doesn't really have that outlet. So I just put alarms in my phone, go check the mail. Like I'm paranoid about being outside, but I have to check my mail every day. We'll go with our masks, but that's like when we go outside to kind of get fresh air. And it's hard for my son because a lot of the people in our apartments, they're letting their kids play outside, they're playing tetherball, they're all over the place, they're knocking on my door asking if my son can play outside, and it's like, you guys should be inside, you guys should not be out here. So it's just having to explain that to my son because he's like, why can't I do it? So as far as managing my time, I try to just come up with little things, put it in my phone, spend 30 minutes to read either to my son or he can read to me. Like
that is
around
a fabulous
noon
strategy.
Yeah, like I'll have him, I have tons of canvases, the paintings, I love to paint. He never really cared for it, but that's something that we kind of implement in our day. He might not have to finish a drawing or a painting all in that same day, but he needs to take 15 or 20 minutes to do it. So I have these little alarms when he knows they go off. He'll come to me and say, what are we doing? Or what do we have to do? So I make it fun for him. And that's my main thing. I feel really bad for him. I can cope because I understand what's going on in the world, but with him, he just doesn't really understand. So it's kind of teaching us structure. So it's been working for us so far.
Good. That is really a great strategy that I don't know that I would have thought of. And I really like that because breaking your day up in chunks really helps provide all kinds of things, but it helps your brain stay in a nice rhythm of, okay, there's an end to this. This isn't just mindless staring at a screen for 4 million hours. It is helping him understand about what's important about getting outside and doing something creative. And it helps you guys have a connection. So good. That's brilliant. Man, I love that. Let's see. Christina, could you tell us how you are managing your time and responsibilities at home?
I'm really jealous of Deja. It's a hot mess. I'm sorry. There's no organization. It's just survival mode. Like I said, I tried to do a schedule and it just doesn't work. It didn't work with a 3-year-old. He doesn't really understand the concept of me having to teach a class. I'm doing synchronous, so I still conduct the class at the same time that the class was, and it gets recorded. And my students all understand that I'm a mom to a 3-year-old, and that my son might pop in, and he has a few times, and so we try. It's really a trying thing where we try to have some organization. I will say there is a time. We do have this rule that after, I believe it's 6 o'clock, that's it for us. We don't do any more things on the computer because I get sad when my son says, can you get off the computer now? Like, because he doesn't understand that this is how I work. This is how I make a living right now. And so at 6 o'clock we stop and it's family time. So whether we watch a movie, we do game night, but as for managing time, I'm just trying to survive.
And I think that it's really important that we have that nice contrast between what Deja's doing and what Christina's doing, because I think it's important that anybody who's watching really listens to the fact that there's not a right way to survive a global pandemic. Like, you're just going to do it the way that works for your family and what's working for you, and you don't need to have shame about that. There's nothing wrong with doing it Deja's way or Christina's way. I do think that there are some right things that are happening that both of you are doing, and that is that you are, for your children, showing that there's a line. Like, I'm not going to work the entire day. There are, however that is, whether it's in little pieces or a 6 o'clock deadline, but that is when this is over, for that feeling of hope for your children and for structure, and for them to see that that balance is important. And 3-year-olds do have a different concept of time. They have a different concept of understanding than a 12-year-old. I would say they're night and day, but sometimes 12-year-olds are exactly like 3-year-olds. And sometimes a 3-year-old can be a very sassy 12-year-old. I totally get that. But overall, they're so different. And so their expectations need to be different as well. And as you look at and you hear, like, oh, this person has a color-coded chart and everybody's doing everything exactly right. That may be true for their family, but what works for your family, you have to find that on your own, and that's okay. And I really want to encourage everybody who's watching that if you're hearing Deja's way and you're like, ugh, that sounds horrible, then don't try it. But if you're like, hey, that's the thing we've been missing, then try that. And the same thing with Christina. If you're like, oh, I don't want to stop at 6. I work best at night. I'd rather play with my kid more during the day, and I'm able to do that, then do it that way. But if you're like, 6 o'clock sounds amazing, I just needed permission to do it, you have permission now. Set your thing for 6 o'clock and be done. That contrast is good. It's good for everybody. Carla, how are you doing with your managing your time and responsibilities?
I feel a little bit of balance between the two. Actually, like at first it was I thought this dream was going to come true, and I just had it all perfectly aligned and everything was going to work with my morning with my kids, and like getting them to breakfast, and like we were going to have a little school time, and then I was going to come up like flying fairy to my room to work, but it didn't at all look like that. So I readjusted, and now I'm waking up 30 minutes before my kids, or trying to like give myself some time to work out, because it helps manage my own ability to work and move forward in the day. And then after that, honestly, I stay hidden in my room, and that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. And I'm really just working the whole time. I try to get up and go walk the cul-de-sac or have a lunch. My husband's home taking care of the kids right now, so that's helpful. And it's an amazing bonding time for them. So I'm very thankful for that. But for my own self, I feel like it's hard. It's hard to be in your room working on your computer where your kids are downstairs and you can't go down there, because if they see you, then it's like, wait, mom, wait, you're done? I can hang out with you. And then it becomes this whole situation. So I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard.
It is hard. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that you said that I thought were really, really good points. The first one about getting up before your children. Although I think that this is a good time to be like, if schedules are not working, then throw schedules out the window. There are a few things I would recommend trying really hard to stick to for your children's developmental benefit, for your own sanity, is bedtimes and wake up times. Because if you can get your children on a predictable bedtime and wake up time, and I understand like teenagers, that's a whole nother story, because you can say, go to your room and don't look at me for an hour, and they are happy to do that. But 3-year-olds, you can't do that same thing too. So I'm talking about early education, bedtimes and wake up times. Like, it is in our nature as caregivers to not wake up sleeping children, but if you can wake them up at the same time every day, after about a week, they'll start waking up at that time on their own. And then you can set your clock for that half hour, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes they just they're up and they want to see you, but finding that thing that gives you life before they wake up is one of those things that can help you be a better parent for them. And exercise is one good one, depending on your faith tradition, doing a faith practice in the morning before your children wake up, eating something before they wake up, just a little. For those of you who like coffee, I can't like it, but I envy those of you who do. You can have a coffee, something before they wake up, and get yourself in a place where you're excited about seeing them and they can be woken up by a pleasant, happy person instead of a why are you waking me up person, is a good thing for you and for them. And then you can get that routine so that they can also go to bed at a decent time, even if it's not your normal time that it used to be. Maybe they're waking up at 10 and going to bed at whatever o'clock, but you're having this routine so that way they're in bed at a particular time, and then you can do something for yourself also. Watch, or This Is Us or Gilmore Girls or whatever, Chopped, or I'm watching British Baking Show right now, whatever it is, that gives you a little bit of joy. So you can do that on either end so that you don't feel like you are working 24 hours. So I really, really like that. Great. Marlissa, how are you doing with your time balancing? You're managing your time and responsibilities.
Honestly, I don't really have a routine at all. Like, I just let life just go. I go with the flow of my life right now. Like, my daughter, she just turned 5. She's full of energy. She just was blowing like a balloon, like air pump in my face. So, like, just right now. So, she's about to come back in again.
Daddy, I hear you talking.
I know. Thanks. See you in a little bit. Yeah, but exactly. It's no time. It's go with the flow. I try not to put too much on myself because I do have pressure on me because I have deadlines that I have to do with assignments and everything and study for finals. But right now, I'm not really taking life. I mean, this pandemic I'm taking serious, but as far as my life, I'm just like enjoying my daughter, enjoying my family, and that's all I could say right now.
Yeah, and as you see, everybody kind of is managing in a different way.
Yes.
But the thing that I'm seeing along the way is this idea of I'm kind of giving into and settling into and being okay with the way that it is. This is the thing that's working for me, so I'm going to continue on with this, and that's okay. And I think that's fantastic, Marlisa. I'm glad you told us about that.
Thank you.
Victoria, how are you doing with managing your time and responsibilities?
I'm kind of a mix of everybody, the more that I hear. I originally tried to have like this really good schedule and everything because I used to have a really good schedule before this pandemic. I used to have it all set in stone, everybody knew it. And then everything changed, and now I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna, as the kids say, I'm gonna vibe with it. So I'm just going to go with the flow, and I'm just gonna kind of take it day by day and see what I have to do. I like to try and keep a certain time frame of like certain classes. But other than that, it's just, okay, I have time for relaxing. I'm going to use that up. Or I have time to finish this assignment. Let me do that. Or, hey, I have time to socialize with my family. Let's all throw on a game downstairs and just have at it.
Right. Yeah. Well, finding those things that break up your day in a positive way is a really good coping strategy as well. So even if you are a list person, even making a list of these are the things that I enjoy doing. And so every few hours, I'm going to stop and just walk away and go, this is good enough. And go, play a game or read a book. The thing that I have a book that I'm only reading a chapter at a time because my attention span seems to be super short. And I'm like, I'm going to go read one chapter of this book on paper and not stare at a screen for for just a few minutes. And I feel like I find myself looking forward to that. And, finding the things that you can look forward to is a good way to kind of help find that balance as you press forward. Okay, so do you have a favorite resource that has been helpful to you as a parent or caretaker? Is there anybody here, if you want to just kind of wave your hand a little bit? Have you accessed any of our resources that you have that you've used? Is there anybody that's used something they'd like to share about?
I'm in EOPS. So
Okay.
recently I scheduled one of the meetings through, I believe they're using Cranium Cafe. If I'm
Okay.
not mistaken, that's the name. So it's kind of like Zoom, but it has more structure in the sense of setting up your appointments and everything.
Okay.
So to still have the EOPS team be very active in that and have them, they all have shifts of when they're on and when they're not, and you can even view like their hours. I think that's incredible and it helps so much because I know there's all of our counselors working so hard for countless students because just these times are really difficult, and to deal with that alone is just a lot. So
Mhm.
to have counselors available is just fantastic. That's a huge resource that I've definitely used. And the LRC.
Yeah. Okay, so has anybody accessed anything like questions about their financial aid or anything like that online yet? Nobody?
I've actually helped out students with that.
So what's
So
your experience? How's that going? Victoria?
I accidentally muted myself. So I work through outreach department, and before campus closure I was in our Eagle Access Center, so I would constantly help students with that. And switching online, some of my classmates remembered that I was in that, or I would always talk about it, so I've actually had them message me and ask, hey, like, I have to send this in, I have this required document, can you help me, like, can you help me with that? So I'll actually use screenshots or screen recording, or like talk to them on Zoom and share my screen and say, hey, like, this is where you're going to go. This is what you're going to do. And I wish that I could do that more, like how EOPS is doing and how our counselors are. But I think we're still working on something for, student, like a virtual Eagle Access Center.
Yeah. One, my department is in early education, so I don't have the best knowledge about all of the resources. But what I have been hearing from everybody is that the campuses, both campuses, all campuses are working super hard to make sure that everything you had access to before, you can have access to now, just virtually. And so if it seems like, hey, I wish that I can't seem to figure out how I'm supposed to do financial aid or tutoring, there is tutoring available, and there's some really great tutors out there. Or I really don't know how to access my counselor or any of those things. First of all, there are on our homepage for the college, you can, on the website, you can find all kinds of links. But if that's overwhelming to you, reach out to an instructor. And like I said, I'm not a professional. Like I don't know, exactly where you go or what you do, but I will find out for you. And I think every instructor is happy to do that for you as well. So even if you're like, I'm not really sure this applies to my stats teacher, whatever, I don't know if they know about this. Well, they probably might not, but they certainly can find out. And we have the emails of all kinds of people, and we will find out for you. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And just like Victoria was saying, or ask a friend, what did you do? How did you do that? And there is something, sometimes we don't want to burden others, but you don't know how great it feels, especially people who are feeling super powerless, to be able to actually help somebody is very helpful. Actually, it feels great. If I can check something off a list right now, or if I could help somebody, I feel like, oh yes, thank you. I feel like, yay, a win today. So know that your fellow students and your other support people that you know at the college are happy to do that as well. Okay, anybody else access any or want to talk about any services in particular?
I have a service. Well, it's a program at MSJC, CalWorks.
Okay.
I just won a $500 scholarship through that program, and since I've been going to MSJC, they've helped me with my books. They've helped me with gas cards, meal cards, and just by me having that, it's helped me like actually eat, because sometimes I didn't have money, and Help a Student Fund is a great, voucher or fund for students, because it's a lot of students that are going hungry, like Food for Thought. I volunteered numerous times for Food for Thought, food for thought, EOPS, all the counselors are there for you. Even the general counselors are there always, you know, and yeah, it's a lot of resources for students. I can speak on behalf of students and say, like, I wish that, you know, students will access MSJC website so much more because it's so much resources out there, you know. So yeah, everybody needs to access the MSJC website.
Yes, absolutely. And I think sometimes, especially people who are not, they don't consider themselves tech savvy, they might feel hesitant to go onto a website or like, I don't know if I can find things. But I will tell you, you cannot break somebody else's website. So just click a bunch of buttons and keep on going, and it will lead you to where you need to go. Like if you're like, I wonder if this applies to me. Well, if it doesn't apply to you, you won't be able to, it won't take you anywhere. So click, click, click. Don't be afraid. And then also don't be afraid to ask somebody who is techie and say, hey, can you walk through this with me and help me find it? Because Alyssa, you're so right. There are so many services and things that are available to us just for asking. And there's no shame in asking. Being a student is hard work. It takes a lot of resources, and it literally takes a village, and we're happy to be part of it, especially those of us who have gone through the process. We remember it has not been long enough since I was in school that I have forgotten how hard it is to exist and go be a student. And I hope that it never is that long, because I hope I always remember, so that I will always have that attitude of, you're trying so hard, let me help you get forward. And, you know, your benefit is my benefit, is our community's benefit, is, you know, everybody's benefit. And so please ask. Don't feel like don't feel ashamed or feel like you don't want to bother somebody. We'll find somebody who wants to be bothered.
That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, if you have a problem, like, come see me. Let's figure this out together. I'm also in student government, so that's a huge thing that I try to advocate for, is letting students know and our community know of all the resources that we have. And I've always been for advocating the amounts of resources and information and opportunities that Mount San Jacinto has provided, not only for myself, but it can provide for everyone else.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
that's just
available for everybody. Everybody has times when they need help. And the best thing is when you have, you know, I was an MSJ student back before many of you were born. And I needed help then, and now I get to help others. So like, you get to, that's how that works. That's how we work as a community. So please, yes. Carla, I feel like you had something to say.
I really wanted to point out the Student Health Center website because it's phenomenal. So please utilize under the Student Hub. The Student Health Center has an amazing website of just resources that you can access. You can make appointments. It's great.
Yes, yes, yes. I hear of all kinds of great services that are available that way. And a lot of people worked really hard to make sure that could happen. And so take advantage of it. One thing that always, another thing about asking for help is that I have been a part of other things that were not at the college, but other things that were run by people who wanted to help, and the service was not accessed enough. And so then it wasn't made available anymore. I've known of a mobile dental clinic that used to drive around and help children, and nobody wanted to use it. And so it just shut down, and now it's just parked somewhere. And, you know, people can't get that free dental health care because people were afraid to use it. And so I just want to say, like, the other thing about using, not abusing, but using services is that you also give it a reason to keep going, and then that keeps it alive. And that's a really good thing, because that also helps other people. So yeah, use that health center, use it. We want to keep that. Let's look at, we kind of talked about self-care and maintaining that healthy balance, that healthy mindset at home. And normally I would ask everybody that question, but I think that I am not great at time management. So I think this is a good time to move on quickly, since we kind of touched on that. But does anybody have something they just really want to share on that?
Music helps a lot.
Yeah. For some of you, music is a big deal. Let's do it this way. How about everybody think for a second of 3 words instead of 3 paragraphs, 3 words that describe something that you're doing to give you like healthy mindset. So Victoria, one of your words, you can have 3 more if you want, but one of your words would be music. So if everybody could just think of that for a minute, and then we'll just do it like popcorn style. We'll go super fast. I'm looking to see who looks ready. Deja, can I call on you first? What are 3 things that you're doing that, just real quick, you're doing that are giving you balance?
I know you said 3 things and it's going to be like a full sentence, but I'll make it quick.
Go.
I just want to say communication, and reach out to your loved ones, to your friends, to your family, because during this time, like, you never know what someone's going through.
Mm-hmm.
They might not know that they need someone to reach out to them, and it could just change their day and make them feel better, and it can help you feel better also.
That's a really good one. That was totally worth breaking the rules for. My dumb rule. All right, Christina, are you ready?
Gardening, running, and again, communicating, letting people know what's happening.
Good, good. Carla, you got 3 for us?
Of course, I would say working out, breathing, like mindful meditation, and sleep.
Yeah, I think I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I can't let that go by. Sleep is one of the basic needs of life. And a lot of times we treat it like it's the thing that we can cut out of our schedule if things get too full. But sleep is as important as eating, as breathing, as going to the bathroom. Like, those are things you can't cut out of your schedule, and sleep can't be one of those either. So yes. All right, Marlissa, what do you got for us?
Prayer, meditation, and laughter.
Yep, those are really, 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 really good ones. Victoria?
So I'm going to go with music, video games, and socializing.
Yeah, those are really great, all great things. And I think really the key is finding the thing for you that gives you that amount of joy, what gives you that release, and again, something to look forward to. So those of you who are, caregivers, what are you, how did you explain the current crisis to your children? And those of you who maybe have some tips on that, if you'd like to share them, that's great as well. Carla, how are you explaining to your 2 and 5-year-olds what's going on?
So I use we have a book about germs. So I use the whole concept about germs, and I break it down just at that level, that there's a really bad germ in our world, and that germ, we need to make sure that we wash our hands. And that is why we stay home. And that is why we don't have our family coming and visiting us in our house, because we don't know if they picked up the germs. And then I just minimize the news. The news doesn't play in our house unless it's my husband listening to the news, and then I'm like, can you turn that off? So I try to keep all of that stuff out of our house and the conversation at bay. And then in terms of the news, and we just talk a lot about feelings right now. We're just a very emotional household of feelings of why we are where we are.
Yeah, awesome. Christina, do you have any, how are you explaining to your 3-year-old what's going on? I know you were saying he's having a hard time understanding.
Well, we watched a lot of news at first, and he asked me a question that kind of snapped me and like made me realize that maybe we shouldn't be watching too much news in front of them. He turned to me, because my son is very articulate. We did a cognitive test, and he's clocking in at 5 years old, not 3. And so he came to us and he said, "Are we going to die?" And it just it took me back, and I had this moment, and I go, "No, we're not. We're going to do everything we can to stay safe." And then we limit how much news we see in front of them. And we used Sesame Street had an episode trying to discuss this, so we watched it, and it was really good for a 3-year-old.
Great resource. Yes. I've been watching what they've been doing, and it's been amazing, because Sesame Street doesn't just go for entertainment. They have really very smart people who know what they're talking about, guiding their programming, which is more like a curriculum. So that's a really good, great resource. One thing that you said kind of triggered the idea of the very popular Mr. Rogers quote of his mother saying, whenever there's tragedy, whenever there's something scary, look around for the helpers. And so for those of you who have small children especially, this is a good time to talk about who is helping. So if they say, "Are we going to die?" Well, there are a lot of scientists and doctors doing everything that they can to help people who are getting sick, and they're helping us so we won't get sick. And one thing those smart people told us to do is to stay home. So we're going to listen to the smart people. And pointing out those helpers is really helpful with that. Yeah. Deja, how's your 12-year-old? How did you explain to your 12-year-old what's going on?
I think it's because he's older, so it's a different dynamic. But when this was all starting to happen, he was already hearing about it at school. Like they were kind of prepared a little bit for it. So when I told him, he understood and he took it quite well. He was just like, "Woo, vacation, like extended." So he enjoyed that aspect of it. But he understood when I told him, "You can't go outside. It's like when you get sick, when you get a cold, you can catch it, you can spread it. But with this, it's something new. There's no cure for it yet. There's no medicine that we can take for it yet. So if people keep going outside, not wearing their masks, things like that, it's just going to keep spreading. A lot of people are going to get sick, and it's not going to be good." So he understands that aspect of it. He thinks it's fun time all the time. So I kind of just try to bring that fact that that that's not what's going on. This is something major. Like in your history books from years on from now, this is going to be in your history books. So you need to take it seriously. And he understands why he can't go outside and see certain people, but he's just glad that he's not in school, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's good that he's able to find joy. There's something silver lining. I think that we've all probably had to use that strategy of, okay, well, let's see what I like about this, and I might as well focus on those things because it's not changing. So I guess I like making bread in the middle of the day. Okay, all right. This is at least my husband and I have probably said to ourselves 1,000 times, well, at least we haven't had to fill up the cars in a long time. Like that's the most big thing in the whole wide world. But for some reason that gives us peace because we bring it, because we bring it up all the time, like looking for those things that make us feel like there's some positive, every time I look and see the impact on the environment, or I see the impact on some families. I know that some are struggling, but in some families, it's a nice positive thing. So trying to focus on those things are good. And also letting kids understand that it is serious. This is something that we have to pay attention to. And I think it's smart for our older kids, our teens, and our tweens to be talking about, the historical impact. Like this has not happened before. This is not regular. This hopefully will not happen again. And so, what are the lessons we're learning while we're in the middle of a pandemic, so that they can move forward and remember these times? Because your 2-year-old is probably not going to remember the great 2020 doesn't mean anything to your 2-year-old, but the 12-year-old is going to remember. And so it's really important that we don't forget that their feelings are there as well. Marlissa, how did you talk to your 5-year-old? What did you say?
I let her know that it was a big germ. Like I pretty much put in her head as a concept of the germ being a monster. But I try not to scare her too much about, the monster. But I let her know like, hey, it's a monster, that's a germ, and we have to fight this thing off. And I had to let her know, like, her being out of school, it's a good thing that everyone is like at their homes because they can stay safe. And she's like, okay, Mom, I understand. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I pretty much summed it up to something that is realistic, but yet she can understand it. And it's like from a kid's point of view too, because I didn't want to scare her and put too much, things in her mind. So
yeah. I think that there is a delicate balance between causing unnecessary fear in our children and also working to present for them something that's realistic and something that they can grasp and get that is serious. When I was working on the book that we worked on, not to be a plug for my book, but when I was working on it, I worked with a trauma specialist who is a friend of mine, a colleague who is her entire job is as a clinician working with children and families and people. And one of the things she kept saying was, there needs to be an emphasis on the things that we can do instead of the things that they can't do. And some of those things are the things that because we have to tell them, no, we can't go outside. No, you can't go outside with your friends. Yeah, I know they're knocking on the door, but we can't do that. No, you can't take your mask off. No, we can't go to school. And those are things. So we want to make sure that we're balancing that a lot with the things that we can do. And one of the things we had our character in our book do is make a list of the things that they can do. But that is something practical that anybody can do. You can put up a list of things that your kids can do, that they're allowed to do. And I know like your 2 and your 3-year-olds are probably not going to read the list, but you could draw pictures, you could get a magazine and cut things out of things that we look forward to doing later, but also things that we could do now. We're allowed to read, we're allowed to snuggle, we're allowed to watch a movie, we're allowed to pop some popcorn, we're allowed to draw with chalk, we're allowed to the things that give us joy and want to keep going. And I know that we are running out of time. It's not a surprise to me that we could go for 4 hours because I am a chatty girl, and we could just sit here and chat all day, except for we'll all have Zoom fatigue, and that won't be fun for anybody.
Can I throw in one thing though?
Please.
about that question? I think that even though it's important to explain to, you know, our children or our younger siblings, I think this question is reversed for me. It's for my mom, you know, like my mom's a parent. And I think it's all mothers, is they worry so much. My mom is an essential worker. She works at a hospital. So it's kind of like I have to do the reverse. I have to tell her like, okay, things are going to be okay. I have to remind her, and my dad have to remind her like, okay, let's turn off the news. This is a little bit too much. So this time is not only about our children, but our parents too. That they're also, you know, important people that we just want to make sure that their mental well-being is just as fine as ours.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is something for all of us to understand, that the things that are good for our kids are also good for our parents. Turn off the news, go outside, think of the things you can do, have connection, acknowledge your feelings. And then I will wrap that up by saying those are things that you can do for yourself as well. It is not a good thing to watch the news all day long. And certainly so what I finally had to do is just give myself certain times of the day, and then that's it. Other things is getting outside and getting some fresh air and connecting with people. So all of those things that you said. So we are seconds away from being done. We have like 9 minutes, and that should be just enough time for each of us to wrap up with the best advice you can share as a parent. And Victoria, if you would like to do kind of a combination of as a from your situation too, that would be fantastic. But the best advice that you could give, that if you were just writing a quick little love letter to all the people who are watching, what's the thing that you would like to be sure to say? Carla, we're going to start with you. Have the privilege of being in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, so I will start with you.
That's fine. Thank you. I would say count your blessings, be kind to yourself, and make the best of this time that we have in our homes.
Yeah, I love that. Christina.
What I would like to say, as someone who has depression, if you need help, ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. It takes a village to raise a child. And if you can't do it, then ask your relative, your partner, someone around to help you, because it can be challenging. So if you need help, ask for help.
I'm super glad you brought up mental health, Christina, because as somebody who struggles with anxiety, I know that this can be a super hard time. And one thing that I try to keep in my phone, and so that I can text it to anybody, and I have even for myself if I ever need it, is that you can text 741 741. It's the easiest thing to remember. I can remember no numbers, and I can do that one. And you can just send a text. You don't even have to talk to a person. It can be any time of the day. If you're feeling like you're in crisis, you should do that. And it can be anonymous, and you can just tell them what's going on, and they can help point you in the right direction. And so for some of us, we don't want to call anybody. We don't trust our voices, or maybe we're surrounded by a million people and we don't want to say anything out loud, but you can always send a quick text. And so I would just encourage you, if you're feeling like that, reach out to somebody who loves you, reach out to somebody you know. And if you can do that, text 741 741. Deja, what advice do you have for parents?
I would say ask for help as well. Communicate, reach out. As far as with the kids, listen to them, interact with them, engage with them, and try to stick or set some kind of schedule, even if it's one thing, if it's waking up at a certain time in the morning, if it's a little earlier, or going to sleep at a certain time. I think trying to stick to a schedule right now while everyone's kind of just homebound is going to be really important, especially for the kids, to get them set on a schedule.
Yep. And what's good for kids is good for us too. Even though that one more episode on, when we're watching shows and we're like, well, just one more. How bad is one more? It really can be so good for your brain to just give it the break to go. Actually, another hour of sleep would be better for me than even one more episode of Grey's Anatomy or whatever. Marlissa, what do you have for us for advice for parents?
I can say just keep your faith strong, and it's asking a question is never a bad, question. And if you do need help, always ask for it. And just if you like need to seek, some type of like getaway, it being going on a walk is okay. Like if you have your mask on and going on a walk, getting some exercise in, journaling. I spoke about that yesterday. Just getting those feelings out, that's packed in, just let it out. Even if you're in the shower and you have to scream, at the top of your lungs, it's okay. Just getting those emotions out and just like remembering that you are human. And if you do have any, frustrations, just let it out before, it gets back to your kids, because they're little human beings just like us. And just continue to, keep faith and stay strong through this, because we're not alone. We're doing this all together. So
Beautiful.
I see it as everyone being one big family in this.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I think it's a good reminder that none of us is just one part. We're physical people, we're emotional people, we're spiritual people, we're cognitive people. So yes, maybe you're feeding your cognitive brain by trying to learn, but you also need to watch out for yourself physically by resting and sleeping and eating and showering and all of the things that might seem like they're hard to care for. Those are important. And also your emotional health is important. So reaching out and making connections, and also your spiritual health, like whatever that form takes for you, really not neglecting that. And I think journaling is one of those really great ways. And if for those of us who keep things for a long time, how fun to read your quarantine journal someday and be like, or your grandchildren reading your quarantine journal someday and be like, wow, that was quite a time. So yeah, good advice. Victoria.
I just guess want to say a little bit of that too. You're not alone. Your feelings are just as valid, and take this time to learn a bit more about yourself and how you can grow more, I guess, as a person.
Yeah, good. I did also want to say, for those of you who have young children, this is definitely not a promotion for my book. We're doing just fine. But if anybody is like, hey, I really need a resource and that's not something that I can afford right now, I would love to gift that book to you. I would buy that for you. So I'll have somebody put in the chat on YouTube for me, whoever can do that, my email address, which is alappin, 2 P's, at msjc.edu. Let me know. You don't have to tell me your business. You can just say, I would really need that, and I will be happy to send that to you, because I would love for you to have it. It's a fiction story that's just about a little boy who's trying to figure out all of this craziness, and it kind of explains why we have to stay home and what we can do and how we can acknowledge our feelings, and why mom is working with the door closed, and why dad is working at the dining room table, and why my brother's home from college, and why I can't go play with my friends, why we can't go to Target, all of those things. So that's what the story is about. And if anybody feels like they would benefit from that, you can find it on Amazon. But if you need that to be purchased for you, I'd be happy to do that. All right, I think we have answered most of the questions and we have run out of time. So Maya, I think it's your turn. I think you were supposed to take over like 4 minutes ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh my gosh, what a great space. Man, this was even better. Well, I don't want to say it was better than yesterday. This was amazing. And this was fantastic and an extension of yesterday. So thank you so much to Professor Amber Lefton. We're so grateful for your moderation.
Thank you for letting me be here. That was grand fun. Thank you.
Yeah, so much. Thank you. Gosh. And everybody, to all our panelists, Deja, Carla, Christina, Victoria, Marlissa, y'all definitely held it down for us and definitely gave some great great, frankly, community, I think. I don't know if I'm using that correctly grammar-wise, but that's what it felt like. So anyway, so we're gonna honor everyone's time, and thank you all to the folks who are on the YouTube channel who are asking us some great questions and making some great comments. We had a lot of support from some faculty members and administrators, and some students and staff as well. So we're super psyched about this. We're definitely gonna plan to do some more of these. So if y'all want to stay involved, for the folks on the YouTube channel, please stay tuned to Student Life. We're probably going to do some collaborations, perhaps with our Student Health Center and some other folks, and definitely our faculty. So thank you to our TEDS faculty for sure. Y'all are rock stars, and we appreciate you. All right, so have a great evening, everybody, and panelists, stick around for just a sec after we end. But